Am I overreacting by leaving my BF because of a joke about his brother essaying me? I'm at breaking point. I've been with my F29, BF, M34, Toby for 5 years in total. For the past year we had been trying for a baby with no luck. Eventually we went for testing. Well, I did and I'm fine, so Toby went and he is infertile. He was devastated. I was more optimistic, saying I was very open to adoption. After a few weeks he came to me with a suggestion. Toby has an identical twin brother, Tom. And yes, he wanted to get his brother to be the bio father to our baby. The thing is, his brother is a toxic a-hole. He never can get past 3 dates with a woman because he is an a-hole. I've accepted that he will always be in our lives as he and Toby are very close. When I met Toby, Tom was working on the other side of the country and I didn't even meet him for 2 years in person. But Toby is different when with Tom. He's kinda toxic too. There was a point after Tom moved back that he started to make jokes about me, but they were mean. And Toby laughed and joined in. I'm normally quiet and non-confrontational, but I blew up on them and they stopped, but things have not been good between Tom and I since. So I wasn't on board with Toby's suggestion. He brought Tom home with him one night to discuss it with me. I sat and listened, and then Toby made a joke about us making the baby the old-fashioned way as it was cheaper. I said no, gross, no thanks, and then Tom said, how do you know we haven't already had section? I looked confused and he said, when you are drunk you can't tell us apart and us brothers like to share. I looked at Toby and he was laughing and nodding. I said that I can tell them apart and I know my BF. But then Toby said that in the dark and being drunk I wouldn't know. They intimated this had happened in the past. I was very angry. Then Tom added fuel to the fire, saying that he wanted to be there to see our baby being born and as I shouldn't be embarrassed as he had seen what I have before. Then he winked at me. They were both laughing and I just left and went to bed in the spare room. I was furious, and next day Toby kept it up. Laughing and saying, oops, you didn't know which brother you had. Now I know, well, I can tell them apart even if they do look very alike, but there have been about 4 or 5 occasions that we did have sex when I was drunk and in the dark. Twice was in hotel rooms after friends' weddings and the other times were just at home after hanging out with friends. So I'm just unsure. Also, during that fun conversation Tom also inferred that he and Toby switched places to cover for Toby but wouldn't say for what. It was to imply cheating. But as I say, I know them apart, but after 2 weeks of them keeping up these jokes I started to second-guess everything. Eventually I decided to go through all Toby's devices. I needed to know if there was any grain of truth in either of these jokes. I found a text exchange on his iPad where they appeared to be discussing hiding something, but it's pretty vague and the messages don't go back very far at all. This had been eating away at me and Toby is still keeping up this joke at this stage. Eventually I planned to try to get his phone. As I hadn't looked there as I plotted, I realized the depths of the paranoia and distress and anxiety I had sank to. The trust with Toby had just gone. And I told him straight that I was moving out to my friend's house and that if he continued to infer that he allowed his brother to assault me without my consent I'd be going to the police about both of them. He freaked out. He said it was just a joke and I was taking it all too seriously. I couldn't deal with him and left and went to stay with a friend. I feel I can't tell anyone why I've left him though. He is saying I'm being ridiculous and unreasonable and wants me to come home. He says he will overlook me threatening to go to the police. Am I being unreasonable? Am I blowing this all out of proportion? I feel I'm so turned around that I don't know. Tom weirdly hasn't messaged or contacted me and I expected to get nasty messages from him, but it's been total silence from him. What do I do? Update. Just wanted to let you know that I couldn't get past his joke, and no matter how much we tried to talk, Toby wasn't taking any responsibility for the magnitude of what he said. It destroyed all the trust one had in him. I actually spoke to his sister and older brother, who are both low contact with the twins and their parents, and it's because of how the twins were favored over the other two. I learned a lot, and that neither twin is dominant really, it's more that they are both dominant in different areas and both can be toxic, and it's not a case of Tom leading Toby in this. So really I decided that I didn't know Toby at all and that he wasn't willing to even accept any responsibility for what he said, so to me there was no going forward. Toby is not taking the split very well and is getting louder and more obnoxious. The surprise was a seemingly heartfelt, sincere apology from Tom, who said he knew he took it too far and that he didn't know Toby had kept the joke going. He said it wasn't even about me but that he was enjoying having something over his brother, but that doesn't fit with what actually happened to my mind, so I don't believe him. And that's the key issue, I don't believe either of them and never will again. So that's it, I'm done. I've moved out my stuff completely and I am still trying to make sense of any of it but can't yet. Am I overreacting to breaking up completely here? I can't see a way forward and I'm no longer even willing to try. Edit. Just to clarify a few things. I did speak to the police after I left initially and after the responses on my first post here. They really felt they couldn't do anything much, but they did speak to both twins. It was more an informal chat than anything and Toby was livid. Tom never mentioned it to me, so I don't know how he felt about it. Secondly, what Tom had over on Toby is that he needed him to have a baby, but again they were totally tag teaming on me that day, and it wasn't one of them against the other, so that was nonsense. Their parents reached out and were very angry that I took a joke so seriously. They seemed to think the most the boys were guilty of was bad taste. I spoke to the siblings after that, and even though I had met them a couple of times, I didn't really know them as they kept their distance. Their brother was very helpful in helping me to understand their dynamic, which frankly is creepy. He doesn't think they actually did share me, but only because they are complete cowards. They wouldn't do something that their parents couldn't bail them out on if need be. He says Toby is all about mind games, and looking at Toby in that new light I could tell he was right. And that's one of the big issues here. It was the total fugging with my mind and sense of reality. I had always avoided them together, but this baby thing brought them together in force and in my face, and I got to see the true Toby. Toby is angry that I could think he would do such a thing despite him telling me for weeks he did do exactly such a thing. He still wants to work it out, but I can't be anywhere near them. Thanks for the validation and huge wake-up call, Reddit. I've a feeling none of this would have ended well for me one way or another if I stayed.